Here's our floodproofing certificate. So in certain situations, we can floodproof a building. We can put up shields, we can put up barriers. We say, we know that building's going to be below base flood elevation. It may already be there, but we're going to allow them to floodproof it to try to keep the water out. The key word here is non-residential. Can I floodproof a house? No, it's got to be non-residential. For insurance purposes, it must be a foot above BFE. The community must maintain professional engineer certification that the building is properly floodproof. We have a floodproofing certificate. One of the other things when we talk about floodproofing a building is we have to run buoyancy calculations because we want to make sure it's not going to float. An example we have in our municipality, this guy just recently bought a building and he wants to convert it into an automotive garage. And it's about 1.5 feet, I think it's a foot below, 1.5 feet below. And he said, it doesn't make any sense if I were to elevate the building thing, because to get cars into the building, they're going to be driving up a ramp like this. So he's talking about floodproofing it. So he's already 1.5 feet below. So if he has to floodproof to 1 foot above, how high are the flood shields going to be? That could be a great test question. I'll repeat it. So he's got a garage. It's 1.5 feet below BFE, and he has to floodproof it 1 foot above BFE. And if I'm going to put shields, you know, big barriers across the openings to keep the water out, how tall are those shields going to need to be? At least 2.5 feet, or 1.5 feet below, and then that extra foot. And then along the way, we're going to make them run buoyancy calculations and everything else to make sure the building's not going to float full. Here's our no-rise certification. We talked about that. I won't spend any more time on that. Just remember, there is no form for that. It's the actual engineering report. V-zone certificate. We do have a form for that. The engineer architect certifies that the design and construction of the structure in the V-zone meets the requirements. The community has to maintain those in a permanent file for the structures. And if breakaway walls are being used that exceed 20 pounds per square foot, they must also be certified. Breakaway walls are those walls that are used to confine an area in an elevated home, confining or building the parameter of the building. They're non-structural. The idea is when wave action hits them that they break apart. If they're breaking apart, they have to break apart at 20 pounds per square foot or less. If it's being designed to be more, they have to be certified, and to essentially explain why.
Well, now, as of recently, they have to put plugins in.
And that
really fits inside the.
Yeah, in that, and the building code is now talking about having vents in the breakaway walls. And there's a lot of debate on that too, because we have people put windows in our breakaway walls down in our neck of the woods. And then the debate was, well, if they're living on the coast and it's a breakaway wall, do they have to shutter or protect that window? And that's a huge caveat. And that, trust me, that's not on the test. That's something that people could debate for years, because if you're putting impact glass or if you're putting a shutter over the window, do you not alter the design of the breakaway wall now?
It's stronger than the wall.
Yeah, exactly. And FEMA has some pictures on different reports where they show a breakaway wall that's just in pieces like it's supposed to be, and the impact glass window is still sitting there in one solid section because it was stronger than the wall. So now do I want that 40, 50, 60 pound impact glass window floating around as waterborne debris impacting other structures in the area? Probably not. So that's way beyond the discussion, but that's the kind of stuff you deal with.
The breakaway wall is normally designed 20 pounds to break.
Correct.
If you want to go over it,
You have to have that certified.
It's still going to break.
It's still going to break away, yeah. And in our jurisdiction, we ask, why do you need that strong one? Have you determined that the wave action is more? What is the use? Keep in mind, when we're talking about those breakaway walls that are enclosing an elevated structure, I'm only allowed to use those things for spa, storage, parking, and access. I can't go, wow, this is really nice. I'm going to put a game room down here. Or the worst one I heard is people like, hey, this is a great spot for a mother-in-law. Like, wow, it is a great, but mother-in-law in the special flood hazard area velocity zone. Yeah, you just wash away with the breakaway wall.
That might be an alternative.
Depending on what you think of your mother-in-law, may or may not be a good or bad idea. Section 1316. Yes, sir. Question?
Quick question, yeah. In regards to these zones and things on stilts, I read, I think it was in technical bulletin one, that you can use either slats, a bug screen,
Like lattice.
or lattice, and it won't affect the policy, correct? Or they won't have to get, it won't affect like the NFIP thing.
The lattice can be used as long as it's and they give you parameters
Right.
on what the lattice openings and all that be. Because the idea is then it's not considered that it has to be a breakaway because the lattice is enough that it
Right,
can still allow wave action to go
Right,
through. Yeah.
okay.
And you may not be dinged on having an enclosure or having
Right, that's
violence.
what it was, okay.
Yeah,
It's definitely less than that 25.
yeah, exactly. Because the idea is that the lattice is going to break away.
Right, or
You know,
lattice.
there's 80% rule of what'll pass through it. See, we already have people that are using that because we have people that have, somebody builds a stainless steel gridwork lattice that they were using. And it looks really cool, but it's stainless steel. So, I mean, it's not gonna break away. It doesn't allow the pass through. So they were basically enclosing their walls with stainless steel at the bottom. And all of a sudden that became essentially like a cage for securing your garage, car, and everything else. You know, and then of course they're mounting it to the structure with stainless steel bolts, and that's a wall now.
That's where they kept their mother-in-law.
Well, no, that's true. I didn't think about that part.